Good afternoon. I'm Sarina Fazan, a journalist, producer, and the host of On the Record. Thank you so much for joining me for this podcast episode. And with me, a very, very familiar face, Julie Weintraub, the COO of the Golden Diamond Source. Your husband, you said, is the CEO. You guys are great.
We got to get that straight. You want to get me fired.
I know, that was so funny. I asked her right before the show because I assumed, too, you were the CEO, and you're like, no, I'm the
Chief Operating Officer. Steve is the CEO. He reminds me of that daily.
And Julie, you're also the founder and of Hands Across the Bay, which is such a wonderful organization that helps so many people. I've done numerous stories with you as well through the years. Yeah, so many. But let's get started, okay? So we have a great series. In fact, in the studio with me right now is Audra Butler, who's the executive producer, who refuses to come on camera, but she's so great. So we started a series, though, called Inspiring Stories from Incredible Women. And you are an inspiring woman for sure, absolutely.
Thank you.
So nice tell us about yourself. You know, tell us how everything got started.
With Hands Across the Bay, well, I've always grown up doing charitable work. My parents were that way. When I was younger, my mom moved in. You know, it seems like most towns have the town guy that like walks around and pushes the grocery cart. And it was a small town up in New England, Cohasset, Massachusetts. We had the town bum, they would call him. I hate that term, and the town crazy, and everybody was afraid of him. He would go and leave garbage at people's doors, or like milk cartons and everything as a gift. And my mom moved him in our house.
You're kidding? And so this
I'm serious, yeah.
So this was in Massachusetts.
In Massachusetts,
and you were
in
born
a very
there.
small town. No, I was born in England. I'm Eurasian. I was moved from England here when I was 7 years old, and my father is East Indian. So, I just one of the places I lived of many in the New England area when I first came to the country. And but anyway, the most fascinating thing, Sarina, was that she was able to help rehabilitate him. And it turns out he was just a veteran with PTSD. And he had a lot of money, and there's people handling his estate, they were just paying themselves. They didn't care what happened to him. He was living in a big house with newspapers up to the ceiling and had, really suffered psychologically a lot. He was on Pearl Harbor when it was attacked. And my mom got him the therapy and took him to all his doctor's appointments. Turns out, long story short, he ended up being a functioning member of society again. He got married, lived in his own home. And I was always kind of like, wow, I can't believe that actually happened. And my father has always been very charitable as well. And I saw what a huge difference it can make if someone helps someone out. And little did we know at the time, years later, my parents would go through a divorce after 25 years. My father lost his business, and the bank took our home. And my mother and I came down here, so I was now with a single mom. And we really had to struggle for a while. So it really gives you a firsthand experience of what it's like to have everything. I always say I know what it's like to have everything, but I also really know what it's like not to have everything. And I think that's given me a unique perspective in the importance of giving back and giving people a hand up whenever you're able to.
So Julie, you just opened up so many questions for me because a lot of people don't know that, about you. They see this beautiful, glamorous face with this wonderful business, but to know everything that you have gone through. I mean, I just learned today as well that you weren't born here. Like, I didn't realize that you were born overseas.
Yeah.
But so, just to go back to that story. So you said you were 7 years old when 7 years old when your mom took this man in, and I think the point that
we were 7 when I moved to the country, but when my mom took the man in, I was like 12 or 13, I think, and I was like, "What are you doing? And why is he living?" And everybody at school is like, Foxy was what they used to call him, is living in the man's house. And, it was, I was about 12 or 13 at the time.
But isn't that something, because we have heard so oftentimes when I do drive down and I, do you see a homeless person? I often do wonder if there's someone that served this country who we really can't pay back enough, but because they don't have the help that they so desperately need, sometimes they find themselves homeless. So to find that out about the person that you took in and rehabilitating his life, so that's what set the example, as you mentioned, for your whole avenue.
It
charitable.
probably set the groundwork for it, but there were so many instances that I saw within my family after that. So many instances I was in after that. When I was in high school, I always loved fashion, but at the time we didn't have a lot. So I always got all my clothes at a thrift store that I heard is still open on Main Street in Dunedin. And I'd try and put my cool outfits together from there. I think I did a pretty good job, but a lot of the really stylish clothes, like culottes, were in. I'm dating myself now. It's like early 90s, late 80s, early 90s. And I, of course, didn't have any of the newest fashionable clothes because those didn't end up in the thrift store yet. And I remember a teacher, Mrs. Whitehead at Dunedin High School, that knew I love fashion, but I didn't quite have the newest stuff. So she brought me in a bag of clothes. And I thought that was so nice. And it was so nice that I actually got a couple pairs of the culottes to wear like the other kids had. And my parents and so many others, I think, led an example of giving back and how impactful that can be in caring about somebody and seeing a little bit more in them than just a troubled teen or something like that. So
absolutely,
I think that was good.
What is the name of the store in Dunedin so we can give them a shout out? Do you remember the name of the store?
I know everybody knows it's a really big store right on Main Street in Dunedin. I think it's between 580 and the street that you go to Dunedin High School. I forget what that's called, but it's right there. I think it's one of the only ones and the biggest, oldest one that's been there. On Main Street in Dunedin. So I'll have to go back and visit someday. But I talked to Melissa, and Melissa Dome, who runs our domestic violence division. She's like, that's still open and it has the coolest stuff in there. And I'm like, I know. That's where I used to get dressed.
Well, maybe during the commercial break, we'll do a quick Google search for the name of the store because I would love to give them a shout out.
I know.
So speaking of that in Hands Across the Bay, and you brought up Melissa Dome, who we, of course, did many stories on as well. Talk to us about Hands Across the Bay. When did that exactly start, or when did you launch it? And, of course, just the title shows that, helping hands across the Bay. But explain the concept to us.
Well, Steve and I, no matter what business we've had, we always donate from our business. Even when I had a separate business, Steve had his business. He always gave back, I did. So we kind of joined forces doing that. We had a bad experience with a charity. I'm not going to say the name because I think it's still around, but we were donating so much money and so much jewelry, and we found out, someone called into us and let us know that none of that was actually going to help anybody. It was like a blank international. So you could never really put your hands on anyone they were actually helping, and then they sent us a 990, and we realized that most of the money was going to pay people in their family and that worked at the organization. Wow. So Steve and I decided then that we would open Hands Across the Bay so we can have a transparent way that, we'll pay all the costs, and the money that comes in, we can really help people in need. It's not like I really needed something else to do. I'm, actively run our entire company and all the divisions within it. But I wanted to make sure I had funding there to help people in crisis. At the same time, we had a guy who commit suicide by cop over his electric bill not being paid.
Oh my
And
gosh.
Then I had our first survivor, Audrey Mabry, who was hit in the head with a hammer and set on fire by her abusive ex. She was trying to leave. And unfortunately now, I don't even know how many women that they call me Mama Bear, that are in my circle of survivors that have survived attempted murders, and some of them have been unfortunately murdered. So.
And I remember that story very well too.
Yes.
Like I've sadly
covered that
yes,
as well.
I covered that as well. And I do notice that you are wearing purple, which is the color of domestic violence. Domestic Violence Month, of course, is in October, but for you, this is it's a daily effort. And Hands Across the Bay helps so many people, but it seems that is very close to your heart.
It is. Funny enough, the O.J. Simpson trial, I think, was very impactful for me as well, because I found that very shocking, and I never thought the outcome would be what it was. So you do see the injustice there, and it was crazy to see. So, the violence against women, once I've handled one case, I think people found me on Google, and I think Melissa's mom called me, and multiple other survivors, their parents reached out to me. And if you meet these young ladies, they're all so amazing and resilient and inspiring, and it's just incredible to see where they've come. But the epidemic of violence against women in this country is crazy. I'm going on a Zoom call for a trial that's going on in Tampa right now. It's the first case I've ever handled where a woman took her husband's life. And there's been a million cases of that happening. I don't take them, I don't advocate on those cases. But this one I did because it was very clear, although the journalist made a joke out of the case in the paper and said that someone had killed their husband for not apologizing. But you could read within the first few sentences that he was on a violent rampage in the whole house before that, punching in the face the father, strangling the father, holding a knife to her throat, then saying she kept trying to tell him to apologize, and he's just like, I'm going to get the gun, where's the gun, where's the gun? And that would have absolutely 100% been another one of those cases where the whole family was taken out. You hear them all the time, where the husband takes out the wife, the neighbors, the kids, and everyone. You think, how does that possibly happen? Well, that's exactly how it happens. And at some point, women do have the right, we have to have the right to stand up and say no. I mean, are we more comfortable with a mass murder than we are a woman actually standing her ground and at one point saying, please stop, please stop, please stop, and if they won't, defending themselves? I mean, don't we have a right as human beings to do that? So I am advocating on that case. And later on today at 3:30, I'm meeting a young woman who last month was shot 11 times. I don't know how she's alive, but it's just weird things that happen at Golden Diamond Stores. I had to tell my guard at the front that she's going to be coming in. There's multiple bullets, I believe, still in her body. So if the alarm goes off, it's just bullets. And I'm thinking, I can't believe I'm having to have these conversations. But those are the things that happen within Golden Diamond Stores and Hands Across the Bay more often than I would like it to. And it's just a crazy situation. So this is really needed. And I think we have to address the issues of violence in our homes. And at some point, if we can't address people being violent and taking out multiple families, that women need to arm themselves. You want to avoid violence at all costs. But if it comes down to it and someone's going to murder you and your family and wipe out the whole house, I think that women do need to be prepared to defend themselves. And that's why I'm advocating on that trial.
You're clearly very, very passionate about it. And for all these women. We know Melissa Dome very well in our area. In fact, I do several stories for One Blood, and she graciously also did a very moving, inspiring story on the need for blood donation.
Yep.
But for people, because our viewership is actually international, thank you so much for that. We really appreciate it. But for people who may not know the Melissa Dome story, will you share that?
Sure.
Share that with us.
Absolutely. She is one of the most amazing young women I think I've ever met. I almost start to cry every time I talk about her. But she survived 32 stab wounds at the hands of her abusive boyfriend that she was trying to leave. And when you talk about this, everyone's going to say
it gives me goosebumps every single time.
Yes. And they're going to say, well, why don't they just leave? I want you to know that Melissa Dome's story and so many others, most of these cases happen when they are leaving. Yes. So when people say, oh, well, why do you do all this with domestic violence? Why don't they just leave? They do. And that is typically when they end up being murdered or almost murdered. So that's what we're facing. And at some point, women need to be able to say, no, I'm not going to tolerate that, and I don't want violence, and I don't want to attack you, but if you're going to try and kill me, I'm going to stand my ground. Well, Melissa had a boyfriend that she was leaving. She had a restraining order against him, thought he had moved on, and he kept calling her after a court case and said he just wanted to have closure and have, I believe he asked her for one last hug. Can I just have one last hug? She's in her mother's home, doing her homework. She was a good kid, 4.75 grade point average. She is a remarkable young girl. And she thought that he had said that, nothing would happen.
Right,
if
one
she
last
just went
time.
outside, and then it would close, it would be done. So she's thinking, oh my God, he's going to keep calling. She also knows how violent he is. He's 6'4". She's at home with her single mom that had probably come through the door. She really angered him. So she thought, let me just go outside, give him one last hug, and it'll be done. Well, she went outside, and she told me she could tell right away something was just wrong, and the hair stood up on the back of her neck. But she brought mace and figured, if worst comes to worst, I'll mace him or I'll run and call the police. And it just all happened so quickly. There was no time. He pulled out a knife and began to stab her. But just for you to take it in, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it goes on 32 times.
I mean, yes. I mean, like the hairs on my arm are standing up.
So at some point, if she has a really violent ex, would she not have had the right to arm and defend herself and say, I'm not going to go outside, and if you try to come in, I'm going to defend myself? That's where I want to get us to. Why do women have to be sitting ducks? So she's, oh gosh, if he does come in and I shoot him, or he does attack and I shoot him, if he starts trying to threaten my life, then I'm going to face murder charges. It shouldn't be that way. Again, I don't like violence, and I hope everyone avoids it at all costs. But that is the situation. So Melissa miraculously survived that. It was called in as a murder, and there was a female police officer that got the call to go and look for her, Melissa. She is an amazing officer with Clearwater Police Department. Dan Slaughter and all of them there were amazing to her.
Dan Slaughter, who's now the chief.
Yes, now he's the chief.
Now he's the chief of police.
He is a great guy, a
great
man.
respect
We're
for
lucky
him.
to have
Absolutely.
him. But Melissa, this female police officer, she wasn't where Melissa was supposed to be when she was going to look for her. But she kept looking. She didn't give up. So she is such a hero, because someone else could have said, I don't see anybody. Someone's calling in a murder. I don't see any body. There's nothing here and left. And she didn't do that. She kept looking. And Melissa had lost so much blood by this point, but she fought and fought. She crawled next to a mailbox. I believe he thought she was dead. The caller believed she was dead. And she was just saying her last prayers. She is very spiritual nature. And then she saw a flashlight. And it was Melissa running to her, the other Melissa, she calls her.
Yes, the police officer.
And that was an amazing thing. And she got to her and she said, who did this to you? What's your name? And Melissa could barely speak and everything, and got out his name. Eventually, she understood what his name was, because Melissa, the police officer, really believed that she wouldn't make it a few more minutes. There was so much blood, but she did. And the first responders that came to Bayflight her to Bayfront Trauma. Dr. Jeffrey Johnson is an amazing trauma surgeon that we have in our area. I mean, that guy's a superhero. If you know his history, you should interview him sometime.
Believe me,
this guy
he's amazing.
Is so cool. He did trauma surgery over in the Middle East. Really cool guy. He took care of her, but one of the first responders that helped get her on the Bayflight helicopter to the hospital, she ended up married.
I know, it is the most,
cool.
Honestly the most romantic. It's such a sweet story. I would encourage people who are not familiar with this particular story to do a simple Google search of Melissa's name and find her story. We are on that note, because especially, I mean, it was so sweet when they got married. I covered that too.
Yes.
I did.
People magazine covered that.
Yes, you got national coverage. We are going to go to a quick break right now. We will be right back, and we have so much more to talk about. Stay with us. I'm Sarina Fazan, and like most people, my skin is a priority. When you look good, you feel good. That's why I turned to South Tampa Dermatology, a full-service medical and cosmetic dermatology practice. Dr. Flynn and her dream team offer the products, services, and procedures I need to keep my skin healthy so I can perform at my very best, and they can do the very same thing for you. It's affordable, and your confidence is priceless. Just head to stderm.com or call 813-872-9551 to make an appointment. Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm here with Julie Weintraub, a very familiar face in the Bay Area, the COO of the Gold and Diamond Source, as well as the founder of Hands Across the Bay. So we were just talking about the Melissa Dome story. Melissa now even works with you.
Yeah, she heads up our DV division, yeah.
So Julie, though, I got to ask, okay, Gold and Diamond Source, let's now also very happy note about the business and the success of the business and what it took for you and Steve to get to this point. But of course, everybody's wondering too, did Melissa get her engagement ring from the Gold and Diamond Source?
Absolutely. Melissa is wearing a Gold and Diamond Source diamond.
Okay, so Steve shared a story with me that I've been an entrepreneur now for like just over a year, right? So it's very scary. I worked in a business for so long. I never imagined I'd be an entrepreneur. So I love personally going to TIA, and I love seeing your when you pick up the thing in the airport, and there's the gold and diamond stores, and there's, you guys do so much. So Steve, your husband Steve, said to me that, when you guys first started, there can be very scary moments that you don't know if you're going to make it. Look, I'm even like, I can't even talk about it because it's very stressful. What advice as an entrepreneur, and especially a female entrepreneur, do you have about business and starting a business and building your business? And share your story.
It's about resilience and not giving up and believing. And I think my husband, Steve, is a great example of that as well. And we make a great team. People say, oh, things went great when you and Julie got together. What a great team you make. But literally, I couldn't have done it without him, and vice versa. We do make an amazing team. And some of the things that he predicted and foresaw have been really helpful for us. And some of the visions I had, of course, have helped us tremendously. And, one basic concept is that if you can be excellent in a world full of mediocrity, you will always strive and do very well. And I think that's what we really aimed for. And there were times where it was on the table, should we be going bankrupt? It was years ago. I mean, we were not doing that well. When we got married at Don Cesar, I always tell people we got married on the steps because we couldn't afford to get married, inside. We were doing okay, but it was not the greatest times at Golden Diamond Stores. People were not lined up to buy jewelry there, but we really had faith, and Steve and I both had a vision, and we thought, let's get out there and get on TV and tell people who we are and what we offer. And it was really a leap of faith, and we came through that, and now we're probably either the top 3 or it may be even higher than that, highest grossing volume jewelry stores in the United States. We have more inventory under one roof than about 27 to 30 average jewelry companies across the United States. So,
wow, congratulations on that. I know, and that's what Steve told me. He said there was a period of time, and people look at you and think, the both of you, and think there's no way. But that's exactly what he said. He said it was very, very scary. But I loved what you said about so find what you are good at, right?
Yes.
And just push what you are good at.
Yeah.
Would you also suggest surrounding yourself with the right people that can support you, or what would your advice?
Think about that. There's a saying my mom always said too: "Show me your friends, and I'll show you your future." So I always surround myself with people I think that are better than me in one way. Sometimes you see people and they always hang out with people so they can be the best person in the group. You always want to hang out with people who you think are better than you is in some other way that you can strive to be better. So that is important to be inspired by who you're surrounded by. Make sure that your circle isn't people that are trying to bring you down, and also help other people. The network of women working together and men and working together. And I want to say that it's not even all about women. So many men help Hands Across the Bay and help me advocate for the female survivors. And I don't want to go and man bash, because this is true. Yeah. Most men would never dream of doing that, but we have to be aware of the ones that do. But resiliency and not giving up, and making sure that you're happy with who you are in the business you run, and being excellent, and trying to be around people who are inspiring you to do better. And I'm not talking about financial. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying go hang out with a bunch of rich people. I am not saying that. Richness comes in so many different formats, and you'll see me hang out with a very diverse crowd. Some of the people that I hang out with are very badly injured or hurt or this and that. I've gone through a lot. I feel more comfortable around people like that because I know they have a greatness that enabled them to overcome that adversity, and I'm inspired by that. So, our survivors at Hands Across the Bay. So when you've gone through what you went through, I mean, I'm sure at times you thought, oh my gosh, what's going to happen to me? What's going to happen to my career? And now here you are starting your own thing, and you're on your own 2 feet, and you're doing well. And it's scary when you don't have that safety net. Everyone wants to be an entrepreneur, but most people don't really realize what it takes to do that. And you have to be prepared that you're out of work and you don't have to think about work anymore. 24 hours a day, you have to be concerned with what's happening in your particular business,
Yes, and so speaking of that, so say people at home too are watching and thinking, all right, well, yes, I'm focused on that, but I don't have the capital, I don't have the money, to hire so-and-so or to do this. What would your advice be on that? Like, you can still make it happen, can't you?
You can still make it happen. You partner with other people that are entrepreneurs and people who are wanting to succeed or help others. If you have a good reputation for being a hardworking person, you can partner with people and get it done one way or another. There's a saying, where there's a will, there's a way, and that is absolutely true. If you're really determined to do something, whatever it is, you can do it. You just have to try and not give up.
Well, I mean, these are such inspirational words. Believe me, they're inspiring me. And I have to say, like, I'm looking at all your jewelry too,
Yes.
and I love your jewelry and I want to thank you guys personally because, as you know,
Yes, you lost a lot of jewelry in a robbery, and
yes.
I still have faith that hopefully they'll be able to, law enforcement, find the jewelry that you lost. I know that was heartbreaking for you, and I know Jane Castor, a great friend, she just told you not to give up, and they're still trying to find everything you lost.
Julie, it was amazing. In fact, you're right. So I just saw the mayor for an interview, and so the jewelry was stolen.
Yes.
Out of Hyde Park on a photo shoot. And I love Hyde Park, so I don't mean to say, I love Hyde Park. They
But it
work so
happens
hard.
anywhere.
It can happen anywhere. And it's in the middle of the day. And she, of course, was, the mayor. But said, have faith. The Tampa Police Department is the absolute best police department. All of you guys are in the Bay Area.
Yes.
I mean, again, we were talking about Chief Dan Slaughter.
Yes.
So, of course, I still do have faith. But a lot of it was taken. Yes. I brought in a ring that was broken. It was just right here that you guys fixed for me.
Yes.
So thank you so much. So now the jewelry that I do have, I'm like, oh my gosh, I just wear it all the time.
I know. And I know you had another piece you brought in. You dealt with my son, Adam, or my daughter, Emily. Which one was it?
It was
I think Adam. And you had another piece of jewelry that you thought was beyond repair. Well, Adam put it back together and we restored it for you. So I've got it for you right here with a little pouch. So I wanted to give this to you back. So there you go.
Oh my God. I'm going to start crying. And it's green.
The colors of your new business.
Oh my God. I mean, I'm surprised I'm not bawling my eyes out, but here I go. Here I go. Oh, Julie, I would hug you, but I don't with COVID. And
I know how important jewelry is.
Oh my
people say jewelry is
gosh.
shallow. It's one of the most meaningful things. So I hope at least, that's some of your pieces we can help restore for you. We've got 8 jewelers on site, so we have that leeway to be able to try and make things better for you and give you a few more pieces to wear.
I honestly don't even know what to say. And the fact that it's green, because my signature lately, it's like, so we have the green here at CP Communications and Red House Streaming, and I'm, sign everything with green. I'm so sorry I'm emotional, but I can't even tell you, like, how much this means to me.
I'm so glad, Sarina. That
really
means a lot, and your emotion means a lot to me, because some people say, oh, jewelry's shallow. But I know with not just my family, with so many others, in life, you give away everything towards the end of your life. My father just passed. I remember when my mother passed.
So sorry.
You give away your car, you give away your house, you give away your clothes, you give away all of your possessions. But what do people keep to the very end? They keep their jewelry on. I remember when a nurse said to me, my father passed, should we take his jewelry off? I was like, oh my gosh, no. That's like saying to someone, you're done. You start taking off people's wedding rings and their jewelry. So I think it does have a lot of meaning, and I'm glad that you love it. I know Adam is a gemologist and enjoyed
It's so
selecting
beautiful.
that for you. So
it's so beautiful and green, with the business, it was decided because of green eyes.
Yeah.
But my daughter,
you have the most striking eyes,
no,
I think, in Tampa Bay.
No.
Literally,
No,
that's what you're known for. It's like you literally have the most striking eyes on television.
No, you're the sweetest. Thank you. But my daughter's birthstone is also, she's born in May.
Okay, perfect.
So,
yeah.
that's an emerald.
It's
and
emerald,
so
yes.
the color green means
a lot to
means
you.
a lot to me. So
Yeah.
I cannot thank you enough. I want you back on the show.
Anytime.
In fact, I want you and Steve on the show for my Love in America. The
That
Love in America podcast are my absolute favorite.
Yes, we will do that. We will do that. There's been so much going on lately, but we will get in here for sure. And I know Steve sends his love to you, and we will definitely come in together next time.
Thank you. And again,
Thanks for having me. I appreciate you having me on your show.
Well, people will be seeing this ring all the time. So thank you again so much, Julie. Thank you. And thank you guys so much. That brings us to the end of another episode of On the Record. Thank you again, Julie Weintraub, for sharing your story. And thank you, everyone, for joining us. You can follow me on all my social media platforms, and you can subscribe to this podcast so you never miss an episode. Until next time, stay safe.